Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters in Christ, today I want to talk about a truth so bold, so divine, that it may just change the entire direction of your life. The world has taught you to chase, to hustle, to run after success as if it is something separate from you, hidden in the hands of billionaires or locked behind doors only the elite can open. But I'm here to tell you, Florence Scovel Shinn told us long ago, you do not chase what is already yours by divine right. You speak the word, and in that spoken word lies your power, your wealth, your destiny. The word is not mere sound, it is a seed. When spoken with faith, with spiritual authority, with the unshakable belief that the universe was designed to prosper you, it cannot return void. You don't need to impress billionaires. You need to impress upon your own soul the truth that you are already wealthy in the eyes of spirit. When you align with the law of prosperity, when you speak not from desperation, but from divine dominion, you no longer become a seeker. You become a magnet. A billionaire consciousness begins with one thing: right words, rightly spoken. So today, I invite you to lay down the chase, lay down the striving, and instead, rise up in the authority given to you by God, by Spirit, by the Infinite. Speak the word, and watch the world rearrange itself around your belief. The spoken word is not just a sound, it is the creative force that shapes your reality. From the very beginning of time, it was the word that formed the universe. Let there be light. And there was light. This was not just poetic scripture, it was a demonstration of divine principle. The same principle that lies within each of us. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that our words are vibrational commands, spiritual instructions, that when spoken in alignment with faith and belief, activate unseen forces to work on our behalf. Most people speak carelessly, unaware that every idle word carries weight in the spiritual economy. But those who understand the law know that speech is not passive, it is active creation. When you speak of abundance, abundance hears you. When you speak of success, success begins to find you. Not because you're chasing it, but because you have activated a frequency that draws it in. Words are not meant to describe your circumstances, they are meant to transform them. The moment you speak as if lack is your truth, you reinforce it. But the moment you dare to speak prosperity in the face of emptiness, you set into motion a divine chain reaction. You shift your vibration, you realign with the source. You awaken the law of supply. This is not about wishful thinking. This is about the law. Just as gravity responds whether you believe in it or not, the law of the spoken word responds whether you recognize its power or not. When you declare, "I am wealthy," the universe does not check your bank account. It checks your faith. It checks the tone, the certainty, the spiritual authority behind your words. Florence said, "Your word is your wand." And how true that is. You are not a beggar in the kingdom. You are an heir. But heirs who don't speak like kings never inherit the throne. You must train your tongue to speak only what you desire to experience. This is not denial of your reality. It is dominion over it. The world may present you with facts, but the word allows you to assert truth. You may be in debt, but your word must be wealth. You may be facing hardship, but your word must be victory. Because the spiritual law doesn't respond to what is. It responds to what is declared in faith. People often say, "I'll believe it when I see it." But the spiritual person says, "I'll see it when I speak it." Because you understand that the word precedes the manifestation. The word is the blueprint, the prototype, the invisible instruction sent out into the field of infinite potential. When you speak, you are instructing the universe. You are calling forth that which does not yet appear. You are rearranging particles. You are redirecting supply. There is no such thing as a neutral word. Every sentence builds or breaks. Every statement either empowers or delays. You must therefore become a guardian of your tongue, a warrior of language, and speak as one who knows their words create worlds. Those who have mastered the spoken word don't hustle for success. They command it, not through arrogance or ego, but through alignment with truth. They don't wait for conditions to change before they speak positively. They speak positively to change the conditions. They wake up and declare favor. They walk into rooms and declare opportunity. They invest in visions and declare increase. Their life may not look like $1 billion, but they talk like they've already received it. And eventually, the world catches up with their words. Because reality is always a delayed echo of what has been persistently spoken. So the question is not, what do you want? The question is, what are you declaring daily? Are you affirming lack, limitation, and struggle? Or are you boldly proclaiming abundance, expansion, and overflow? Are you speaking as one who chases wealth, or one who calls it in? This is where transformation begins. Not in your effort, but in your expression. Not in your chasing, but in your choosing of words. Every I am you speak is planting a seed. Every declaration is casting a vote for the future you are about to step into. The law does not skip steps. It does not play favorites. It simply obeys the one who knows how to speak with spiritual authority. This is why silence is not always golden. Sometimes, silence is sabotage. Because when you stay silent in the face of fear, you give it permission to linger. But when you open your mouth and speak with power, fear must flee. Poverty cannot stay where prosperity has been declared. Delay cannot linger where divine timing has been spoken. Confusion cannot dominate where clarity has been decreed. Your word is not just noise, it is a spiritual decree. It is a sacred weapon. It is your divine inheritance expressed aloud. You must speak like a billionaire long before you see the billions. Because speech is the seed, and your harvest can only match what has been sown through the power of your tongue. You attract what you declare, not what you chase. The world teaches you to run after success, as if it's some distant figure sprinting just out of reach. You're told to grind harder, hustle more, compete, compare, and claw your way to the top. But in the spiritual realm, the realm of true manifestation, it's not the chase that brings results, it's the clarity and consistency of your declaration. Florence Scovel Shinn revealed this timeless truth. The law of attraction begins with the law of vibration, and your words are the first signal you send out into that vibrational field. When you chase something, you are unknowingly affirming its absence. You are saying, I do not have it yet, and the universe, governed by law, echoes that vibration back to you. The more you chase, the more you push it away. Why? Because your energy is grounded in lack, not in possession. But when you declare something boldly, with conviction, as if it is already yours, you align yourself with it energetically. You no longer operate as a seeker, you operate as a receiver. There's a radical difference between those who beg for abundance and those who speak abundance into existence. Declarations are not wishful thoughts. They are powerful affirmations of spiritual truth. When you speak words like, I am wealthy, opportunities flow to me, divine supply meets every need, you're not making empty claims. You're activating spiritual laws that move beyond the physical world. These declarations create momentum in the unseen realm, calling forth circumstances, people, resources, and divine timing to fulfill the picture you have spoken. Your words must become a command, not a complaint. A decree, not a description. The more you chase, the more exhausted you become. But the more you declare, the more magnetic you become. Florence Scovel Shinn emphasized the importance of faith-backed words. You don't just say them, you believe them. You feel them. You live in the vibration of them. It's not enough to say, I'm rich, if internally you feel poor. Your declaration must be soaked in faith, wrapped in expectation, and spoken without hesitation. You speak not because your environment validates it, but because your spirit confirms it. That's what separates spiritual creation from worldly striving. Chasing is external. Declaring is internal. One is rooted in fear of not having. The other is rooted in knowing that all things are already provided. When you look at billionaires and think you have to follow their every step, copy their routines, or mirror their lifestyle, you miss the spiritual law at play. Most people try to replicate the actions without embodying the consciousness. But it is the consciousness, the inner declaration of identity, that truly matters. You don't need to mimic a billionaire. You need to declare yourself one in consciousness first. Your words begin to reconstruct your identity. They build a mental equivalent. You declare it, then you become it. The shift is not outside, in. It is inside out. People may call it delusion when you declare greatness before it's visible, but the spiritually awake call it faith. Every great transformation began with a bold declaration in the face of contradiction. The woman who speaks prosperity while surrounded by bills. The man who declares healing while facing sickness. The entrepreneur who proclaims success before any client signs a contract. These are not dreamers, they are creators. They understand that the universe rearranges itself around the words we consistently speak and the identity we assume through those words. You are not here to chase a dream. You are here to speak it into motion. You are not here to pursue blessings. You are here to release them through the power of declaration. The energy of chasing will always keep you one step behind, but the energy of declaring positions you as one who already possesses. When you declare your wealth, declare your favor, declare your breakthrough, you become a tuning fork for divine alignment. You stop waiting for proof and start living in the promise. And the more consistent your declarations, the faster the physical begins to match the spiritual. The shift happens when you stop speaking about your limitations and start speaking about your potential. When you stop narrating your problems and start declaring your possibilities. You don't need the world's permission to speak powerfully. You only need your own agreement with truth. Every day, your mouth is either building your future or burying it. Your declarations are constructing your identity, shaping your perception, and drawing to you the reality that matches your vibration. It is not arrogance to declare abundance. It is alignment. It is spiritual confidence. You are not claiming something that isn't real. You are claiming what is divinely yours. Stop chasing people. Stop chasing outcomes. Stop chasing recognition. Instead, stand in your authority and speak. Declare who you are. Declare what you carry. Declare what is coming to you. Speak it before you see it. Speak it until you feel it. Speak it until your environment must surrender to the frequency of your faith. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are bold enough to speak and believe. The universe is voice, activated. Destiny responds to the sound of certainty. And when you stop chasing and start declaring, you stop struggling and start receiving. Inner belief must precede outer riches. Before money arrives in your hand, it must first take root in your mind. Before wealth fills your account, it must first flood your consciousness. Florence Scovel Shinn understood this spiritual principle with perfect clarity. The outer world is nothing more than a mirror reflecting the convictions of your inner world. Many people try to reverse this law, waiting for external signs before they feel secure, confident, or successful. But the law of consciousness does not work in reverse. You must first believe within before you ever receive without. What you truly believe about yourself, about life, about wealth, about success, sets the boundaries for what can manifest in your reality. It doesn't matter how hard you work, how many hours you grind, or how many books you read. If your inner belief says, "I'm not worthy," "I'm always struggling," or "wealth is for others," then your results will bow to that belief. The universe does not reward effort alone, it rewards alignment. When your thoughts, feelings, and inner dialogue are harmonized with the vibration of abundance, the doors begin to open, often in unexpected ways. People often speak the right affirmations but carry the wrong beliefs. They say, "I am rich," but deep down they feel unworthy, fearful, or ashamed. The subconscious belief always overrides the spoken word unless the word is backed with faith and repetition strong enough to rewrite the internal script. This is why Florence taught that denial and affirmation must be used together to uproot the weeds of old beliefs and plant new seeds of truth. You cannot plant abundance on soil filled with scarcity. The garden of the mind must be cleared, tilled, and nurtured for the harvest to come. Your belief system is the engine that powers your manifestation. It determines the level of wealth you are able to receive and sustain. A person with a poverty mindset may win the lottery and lose it within a year, while someone with a wealth consciousness will multiply even the smallest amount into great riches. Why? Because one was temporarily rich on the outside, but poor on the inside. The other was internally aligned with prosperity long before it appeared externally. You become a billionaire in your belief long before you ever see the first million. It is an identity, not a number. Most people live under inherited beliefs, handed down by parents, culture, religion, or society. They repeat phrases like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," "Rich people are greedy," or "I'll never afford that," without realizing that every word is reinforcing a belief system that blocks abundance. These beliefs form mental ceilings that keep them trapped in cycles of struggle. But when you begin to question and dismantle those inner agreements, you take the first step toward financial freedom. You replace limitation with truth. You no longer accept the lies of lack as your reality. Inner belief is not wishful thinking. It is certainty born from spiritual understanding. It is knowing that you are connected to a limitless source that desires to express through you. It is believing that wealth is not a privilege for the few, but a spiritual inheritance for the bold. This belief doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you available. Available to receive. Available to expand. Available to fulfill your divine assignment without financial limitation. Belief turns you into a vessel for overflow, not just for yourself but for the world around you. Visualization becomes powerful when it's built upon belief. When you can see yourself wealthy, living in abundance, making decisions from overflow and not survival, then the subconscious begins to accept it as truth, and once the subconscious accepts it, your behavior, language, and habits shift automatically. You begin to act like a wealthy person, not out of pretense, but out of alignment. You invest in your growth. You protect your energy. You speak with authority. You no longer seek permission to prosper, because your belief has already made room for what is coming. Florence Scovel Shinn often said that your word is your wand, but the wand is powerless without belief behind it. You must speak as one who believes. You must affirm with conviction. You must declare without wavering. Belief is the fuel that powers your words. Without it, you're just making noise. But with it, you are calling forth the invisible into form. You are pulling the future into the now. You are creating not from effort, but from essence. Your belief becomes magnetic. It draws the right people, opportunities, ideas, and resources into your life because the outer must obey the inner. True belief doesn't need external evidence. It creates it. It is the unseen foundation upon which all lasting wealth is built. You don't need to know how it will happen. You only need to believe that it must. You don't need to force doors open. You only need to believe that they are opening for you now. Your belief doesn't make the universe work. It allows the universe to work through you. The more you believe, the more you expand. And the more you expand, the more abundance finds you. Not because you chased it, but because you became it within first. Billionaire consciousness begins with faith-filled language. Before empires are built, before wealth is transferred, before opportunities appear, there must be a language that aligns with abundance. The words you speak are not just sounds, they are energetic blueprints. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that words are tools of creation, spiritual weapons, and declarations of dominion. If you want to walk in the level of abundance that few ever experience, you must first speak at a level that most never dare. The billion-dollar version of you does not begin with bank statements. It begins with bold speech grounded in unwavering faith. Language is not just communication, it is manifestation. What you speak with faith, you summon. What you declare with spiritual certainty, you draw into your life. Billionaire consciousness is not about arrogance or ego. It's about knowing who you are in divine alignment. It's about understanding that you are not a servant to money, but a master of it through divine authority. The person who speaks lack, fear, and limitation may have ambition, but they are out of alignment with wealth consciousness. The person who speaks favor, increase, and supernatural provision, despite their circumstances, is already operating in billionaire consciousness, because they are letting their spirit speak louder than their situation. Your words are the evidence of your beliefs. Listen to a person long enough, and you will hear the level of their mindset. You will hear whether they are bound by survival or moved by vision. You will hear whether they are trapped by circumstance or speaking from a place of spiritual sovereignty. Florence Scovel Shinn made it clear, your words must be filled with life, filled with truth, filled with expectancy. You cannot speak defeat and expect victory. You cannot speak lack and expect overflow. You cannot speak small and expect expansion. The language you use is prophetic. It either prepares the way or blocks it entirely. Faith-filled language is not just about positive thinking, it is about speaking divine law. It is rooted in spiritual understanding, not human optimism. When you say, I am wealthy, you are not pretending, you are aligning. When you say, money comes to me easily and consistently, you are not hoping. You are affirming your spiritual right. When you declare, every door I need is already open, you are not being naive. You are stepping into the vibration that makes those doors visible and accessible. The words you speak are either clearing the path or cluttering it with confusion and contradiction. Billionaire consciousness doesn't wait to speak prosperity until the environment confirms it. It speaks prosperity to shape the environment. It speaks boldly when there is no sign. It speaks increase when the bank account says decrease. It speaks favor when rejection shows up, because it knows that the spoken word is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. Faith-filled language is persistent. It does not shift based on mood, delay, or disappointment. It is steady, focused, and anchored in truth. You must train your mouth to speak what God says, not what fear whispers. You must choose declarations over descriptions. Speak what you want, not what you see. The most powerful transformations begin with a shift in language. A person who once said, I'll never be rich, and then begins to say, wealth is drawn to me effortlessly, is not just changing words, they are changing vibration. They are activating a new field of possibilities, and soon, opportunities begin to appear, not because the external world suddenly became different, but because they tuned their inner world to a higher frequency. Language becomes the lever that lifts them into new realms of experience. Billionaire consciousness is developed by speaking consistently, regardless of outer proof. It is not a one-time declaration. It is a lifestyle of alignment. Faith-filled language also includes gratitude, which is one of the highest frequencies of manifestation. When you speak gratitude for what you have, and for what is on its way, you are anchoring yourself in trust. You are signaling to the universe that you are ready, that you are expectant, that you are in agreement with the flow of abundance. Thank you for the wealth that is already mine, is not just a sentence. It is a spiritual command. It opens the gates of provision faster than worry, doubt, or control ever could. Billionaire consciousness is grateful before it sees the fruit, because it knows the harvest is already in motion. Another aspect of faith-filled language is authority. You must speak as one who has the right to speak. You must speak not as a beggar, but as an heir. Billionaires in spirit speak differently. They don't ask life for permission. They declare what is theirs by spiritual law. When they speak, their words carry weight, not because of external status, but because of internal clarity. They are sure, they are grounded, they are in tune with divine principle. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that nothing can resist the words spoken in faith, and billionaire consciousness takes that truth and applies it daily, deliberately, and without apology. To cultivate billionaire consciousness, you must monitor your words the way a banker monitors accounts. You must catch every phrase of limitation, every sentence of scarcity, and replace it with words that align with power, prosperity, and possibility. This requires discipline, awareness, and devotion. It is not enough to speak the right words occasionally. You must make it your native tongue. You must speak wealth like it's your first language. You must speak promotion, breakthrough, and expansion with the same ease you once spoke doubt and struggle. This is how your language becomes a portal. This is how your speech becomes a spiritual instrument tuned to abundance. This is how billionaire consciousness begins. Not in the vault, but in the voice. Fear blocks supply. Faith unlocks it instantly. This is one of the most vital spiritual laws taught by Florence Scovel Shinn. Fear is not just an emotion, it is a frequency, a vibration, a spiritual block that interrupts the divine flow of abundance. When fear is present, the channel becomes constricted. Supply cannot move freely toward you when your energy is rooted in panic, doubt, or scarcity. The moment you operate from fear, you place yourself outside of the flow of divine provision. You begin to expect lack, to anticipate struggle, and to subconsciously push away the very opportunities meant for your breakthrough. Fear is the voice that says, "What if I fail? What if the money doesn't come? What if I'm not enough?" And every time you entertain those thoughts, you are feeding a frequency that attracts more evidence of limitation. The law of attraction is neutral. It doesn't judge your thoughts, it mirrors them. So when fear dominates your internal dialogue, your outer world begins to reflect back fear-based results. Closed doors, missed chances, delays, lack of clarity, confusion. All of these are symptoms of a deeper energetic blockage, fear holding you hostage from your own destiny. Faith, on the other hand, is an immediate opener of gates. It doesn't require perfect circumstances. It doesn't ask for visible proof. It simply believes and acts as if the promise is already fulfilled. Faith is a spiritual magnet. It aligns your energy with divine timing, divine order, and divine provision. When you move in faith, you move in flow. Supply begins to chase you, not because you begged for it, but because you aligned with it through certainty. Florence taught that faith is expectancy, not passive wishing, but confident knowing. When you expect miracles, you create room for them to manifest. Faith-filled expectancy sends a signal into the spiritual realm that says, "I'm ready now." Most people are unaware that their delays are not caused by external circumstances, but by internal resistance. They may be doing all the right things, working hard, setting goals, even saying affirmations. But if their core vibration is fear, the energy repels supply. You cannot hold fear in one hand and expect blessings in the other. The two are incompatible. Where one exists, the other must step back. Fear and faith cannot occupy the same space. One must give way. The choice is always yours. Every time you feel fear rise, you must meet it with a stronger declaration of faith. Speak truth to fear. Replace every "what if" with "even if." Declare, "Even if the facts say no, God's law says yes." There is a boldness that comes when you walk in faith. You no longer move timidly. You no longer shrink around opportunities. You no longer delay action until you have all the answers. Faith moves first. It walks into the unknown knowing that provision will meet you at the point of obedience. Fear waits, stalls, overthinks, and sabotages. It makes you rehearse failure before it happens. But faith rehearses victory. Faith sees the finish line even when the race hasn't started. Faith says, "It is done," even when nothing seems to have begun. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that fear is inverted faith. It is belief in the power of the wrong thing. It is belief that the worst will happen, belief that lack will win, belief that the blessing won't come. When you catch yourself operating in fear, it is not a time for shame but for recalibration. Recognize it. Interrupt it. Replace it. You have the authority to shift your vibration at any moment. You are never stuck in fear unless you choose to stay there. The moment you pivot into faith, even a mustard seed of it, you unlock doors that fear kept shut. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to trust anyway. It is the conscious alignment with a higher truth than the facts in front of you. The facts may say you're broke, but faith says divine supply is unlimited. The facts may say it's too late, but faith says time bends for those aligned with purpose. The facts may say the door is closed, but faith says you are the door. This isn't just spiritual poetry, it's a law. What you believe with feeling becomes your experience. The supply of the universe is waiting for one thing: your readiness to receive it without fear. Supply is not limited. It's not rare. It's not reserved for a chosen few. But it does require access, and faith is the access point. You don't earn supply. You align with it. You don't chase it, you call it in. You don't hope it shows up, you expect it. Fear tightens your hands and your heart. Faith opens them wide. Fear says, hold on tight, or you'll lose everything. Faith says, let go, because something greater is coming. The moment you shift from anxiety to assurance, the flow returns. People, money, ideas, support, all begin to move in your direction. Because now you are no longer a spiritual blockage, you are a divine channel. Faith doesn't mean you'll never feel afraid. It means fear doesn't get the final word. It means fear becomes a signal to speak louder, stand firmer, and believe deeper. Every moment of doubt is an invitation to choose again. Choose trust. Choose alignment. Choose the words, thoughts, and actions that reflect someone who knows the supply has already been released. Choose the vibration that welcomes wealth, not repels it. Choose to stand in the middle of uncertainty and say, I know something good is coming, because I am no longer speaking from fear. I am speaking from faith. You don't beg for wealth. You align with it through divine right. The very act of begging implies separation, as if abundance is something distant, rare, or available only to a chosen few. But true spiritual understanding, as taught by Florence Scovel Shinn, reveals that wealth is not outside of you. It is not something you must earn through struggle or prove yourself worthy of through suffering. It is already within your spiritual inheritance. You were born rich, not necessarily in currency, but in power, in potential, and in the right to receive. Begging cancels that truth. Alignment confirms it. When you beg, you operate from a place of lack. You affirm to the universe that you do not have, and worse, that you are not worthy of having. This belief cuts you off from the supply that has always been flowing. It is like standing in front of a flowing river with your hands closed, asking for water. The river never stopped flowing. The supply never disappeared. The issue is not the source, it's the receiver's belief. Divine right means you don't need to plead for what already belongs to you by spiritual law. You simply need to align your thoughts, words, and actions with that truth. Alignment is not just a mental concept, it's a spiritual posture. It's standing in the awareness that you are one with infinite supply. It's trusting that you are connected to a source that never runs dry, never withholds, and never delays unless your vibration delays it. You don't chase money. You become the kind of person money is drawn to. You don't pursue riches. You embody the mindset, the language, and the certainty of someone who has already received. That's alignment. It's a state of being that replaces striving with receiving. Florence often emphasized that we are not victims of fate. We are creators through faith. When you beg, you reject your creative authority. You give power to circumstances. You surrender your dominion. But when you align, you activate the law of assumption. You begin to live from the reality you desire, not in hope of someday arriving there, but in certainty that it already exists in the spiritual realm and is moving toward you now. That's not arrogance. That's truth in action. That's faith applied. That's how spiritual law becomes manifest reality. The mindset of begging is rooted in fear. Fear that there's not enough. Fear that you'll miss your chance. Fear that you're asking for too much. But divine right is rooted in knowing. Knowing that the universe is abundant. Knowing that supply is endless. Knowing that there's more than enough for everyone, and that lack is a man-made illusion, not a spiritual truth. When you know something is your right, you stop negotiating for it. You stop playing small to receive it. You simply claim it with gratitude and act in ways that confirm you already believe it's yours. Alignment looks like confidence without aggression. It sounds like declarations, not desperation. It feels like peace, not panic. When you're aligned, you don't hustle in fear. You move in flow. You take inspired action from a place of trust, not toil. You don't look for external validation because you already have internal confirmation. And because the spiritual law always mirrors the internal, the outer world starts shifting to match your vibration. Opportunities find you. Resources show up. People start treating you the way you've begun to treat yourself. That's not magic. It's alignment with divine right. To align with wealth means to remove the blocks that keep you in begging mode. It means releasing guilt around money, shedding limiting beliefs that say wealth is wrong, or difficult, or reserved for others. It means replacing those beliefs with higher truths. I am worthy of wealth. I receive easily and joyfully. Money is a tool of good in my hands. These are not just affirmations. They are reminders of your spiritual DNA. You were never meant to scrape by. You were designed to thrive. But your life can only rise to the level of your alignment. When you live from divine right, you stop measuring your worth by numbers. You understand that the value lies not in your bank balance, but in your awareness. A person with aligned consciousness will always attract more over time, because their foundation is unshakable. They are no longer asking, "Will I make it?" They are declaring, "It's already done." They walk with assurance. They speak with clarity. They invest in their vision, not from fear of losing, but from expectation of return. The universe responds to that energy. Doors open. Connections form. Solutions appear. Florence Scovel Shinn made it clear you must act as if you have already received. That's what alignment demands. Not pretending, but positioning. You speak like the version of you that has already arrived. You plan from the place of abundance, not anxiety. You give without fear of running out. You dream without limitations. You make decisions based on expansion, not survival. And every time you do, you realign with your spiritual inheritance. Wealth begins to move toward you because you are no longer resisting it through fear, doubt, or self-sabotage. You were not created to live beneath your potential. You were not sent here to struggle endlessly or prove your worth through lack. You were born with divine right to receive, to create, to expand, and to prosper. But it begins not with asking harder, begging louder, or working longer. It begins with alignment, with stepping fully into the identity of someone who already knows they are connected to infinite supply, and who walks in that knowing every single day.